In one of my last videos, you might have noticed that I used a new tool for my terminal code editing and browsing workflow. It's called Orca, and this tool is absolutely incredible. It is what we call an ADE, an agent development environment, or basically a full workspace for AI coding agents. But trust me guys, this tool is not just interesting for AI developers, it is also interesting for any kind of IT and tech guy, because it's all built around terminal workflows and terminal-based AI agents, which are in my opinion, extremely powerful right now. I use them nearly every day. By the way, my favorite terminal agent is Pi because it is simple, direct, and works really well. But Orca is not just limited to Pi. In fact, it works with any kind of CLI agent. Of course, all with your existing AI subscription, which is for me as a ChatGPT Pro user an absolute must. And the impressive part is that Orca cannot just run these agents. The important part is what it builds around them, because inside Orca, you can run agents side by side in isolated Git worktrees, use the built-in browser mode where you can easily click any UI elements and send that context directly to an agent prompt, or use the mobile companion to monitor and control your agents from your phone. This feature is super cool, but you can also use Orca to orchestrate multiple agents, which basically turns the Pi agent terminal into a fleet of coding experts that can work all together at the same time, even on complex implementations plans. So in this video, I'd like to show you Orca and answer the question, could this become the new all-in-one tool for your agentic terminal coding, Git, and browsing workflow? Or is it just another flashy AI companion that looks great, but doesn't really stand up the hype? So let's find out. But before we jump deeper into Orca, let me ask you something else. What if you don't just want AI to write a few new files, but you want to transform a whole existing legacy project, maybe with an old programming language or some outdated frameworks, into a completely new modern app? Sounds impossible? Well, that's exactly what you can do with Morph from Model Code AI, the sponsor of today's video. The idea is that you connect or upload a complete existing codebase, and then Morph reviews it, analyzes it, maps out what it needs to change, and it finally creates a full modernization plan around it, which is incredible because for large software projects, these modernization plans are usually painful, risky, and costly. And by using Morph, customers report modernization timelines going from years down to months, sometimes even just weeks, which is quite incredible. What I personally like a lot about Morph is that it does not just start changing the code immediately. First, it creates a project spec so you can review the target stack, migration approach, and constraints before anything happens, and then it breaks the work into milestones. And the best is you can sign up completely for free and use my code Christian, then you get 60,000 free credits per month for the first year, and according to Model Code AI, that is nearly $5,000 in value. So this is really an amazing deal, and again, you can sign up completely for free. If you want to try it out, link is in the description. Alright guys, so now let's get started by taking a look at Orca. This is the official website on orca.dev, so I'll link you this in the description as well. There you can easily download this for your Mac, or if you're not a Mac user, I'm sorry for you guys, but you can also run this on Intel, Windows, and Linux of course. And you can also view the entire source code on GitHub if you want. So this again allows you to run a fleet of agents, automate everything, review the AI output, Git integrations. So you can see this is slightly a more developer-focused tool, but as I said in the beginning, you can basically use this for any other operational task as well, because it can also connect to remote servers using SSH. So this is really an all-in-one tool. So I don't want to spend too much time on the website. Better let's just start Orca. By the way, I'm currently running a bunch of other agents and orchestration prompts in the background. I'm going to minimize that. It does not even matter for this demonstration because you can run all of your projects completely simultaneously. So just to show you quickly around here on the left side, you have the tasks, the automations, the Orca mobile companion where you can connect your phone and control all of the different tabs. Of course, you need a connection somehow to your computer, so maybe just connect your phone with a VPN and so on. That will work. And then you can manage your projects here on the left side. You can create groups of projects. These projects can be directories, such as my Obsidian Vault that I'm synchronizing with Obsidian Sync, but also connect any Git repositories. That is even better because then you can manage the different branches in separate isolated worktrees. I'm going to show you that later. And then in the middle, you can add multiple tabs. Of course, you can split windows if you want, like in any terminal emulator as well. And the cool thing is you can even run a browser tab. You can also open a markdown file or edit your code files. You can spawn a mobile emulator. If you're an iOS or Android developer, this might be super useful. I'm not myself, honestly, so I cannot really show this to you, but it might be worth taking a look. And of course, you can spawn any type of agent. As you can see, I'm only using the Pi agent because I generally believe this is the best agent. But of course, you can go into the agent settings and configure different types of agents as well. Then you can run quick commands here at the top right. So have your Docker Compose up or your development scripts here. Then on the right side, you have another sidebar with a file explorer. And if you open a Git repo, you can also go into Git pull requests with source control capabilities, verification checks, and all of that great stuff. So for now, let's return here, and I'm just gonna show you the very first thing that you need to set up. I'm not gonna make this a boring walk through the settings menu, don't be worried, but there are a couple of things that you might need to set up before. The first one is agents, of course. So here you can configure what is the default agent. You can also set to auto if you have multiple agents and you use them for different types of tasks. You can use Codex, you can use Grok, Pi agent, Claude, OpenCode, Copilot, OMP, Gemini, Anti-Gravity, Ada, Goose, Kilocode, Charm. You can even run OpenClaw, Hermes, Rovodev from Atlassian. So there are so many different agents. And I'm pretty sure if there is a new one, they will pretty quickly add it to this list. So you can install them, you can enable or disable them. I'm personally not going to launch the Codex or Grok agent. I'm using this integration only for the bottom left bar that can show me the used session credits. So here, for example, I can see what of my ChatGPT Pro subscription I have already used this week. And I can reset the window. I can also manage different accounts. Here's my Grok AI subscription as well. That is also connected to Pi with a plugin, super useful. By the way, my tutorial about the Pi agent, I'll also link you in the description. If you're not aware of Pi, you definitely should check this out. And then, yeah, so here you can configure the AI provider accounts, Claude, Codex, Gemini, OpenCode, Minimax, and Grok. So these you will see in the bottom left with your usage statistics. And then you should also install the orchestration skill. This adds instructions to the agents so that they know how to communicate with the Orca orchestration tool. And from time to time, it might be worth doing some updates because they might add some new features or small adjustments to this skill. So check this from time to time. Let's go back to the main window because I need to show you how to manage or add your projects. Because if you just start Orca, it's going to be completely empty. And of course, you want to add your existing projects, Git repositories, directories, and so on to the left project manager. So this is super easy. You just click on add project and then browse the folder. Again, here you can add your local device. You can add any Docker context or other remote servers. You can also clone from a URL or create a new project, but most likely you will have your projects already downloaded somewhere. By the way, you can open a parent folder if you have subdirectories as well. So this will automatically scan for any repositories in this directory. So if you're just selecting a directory that is not a Git repository, you can add this just as a folder. But if you want to import repositories from folders, then you can select or deselect the ones that you want to add and also automatically group them. If you import them separately, they will all appear at the sidebar and then you can still later manually group them. But honestly, that's a lot of work. So I personally have organized all of my projects based on the Git platforms and then created separate groups, for example, for my home lab repository. So there are all GitLab repos on my self-hosted Git instance. And here on my personal folder, I have added some local directories as well as example directories, and here my GitHub repositories, my Obsidian Vault, and so on. And yeah, so first of all, I'm going to show you how to actually work with this. And this really works the best if you're working in a Git project. Yeah, you can still use it in a local directory as well, but Git project, this is where the implementation is really working the best. So here, for example, you can see that this is one project here. So you can just go to project settings. So here you can also set the default location, because when you're creating a new isolated Git worktree, then Orca is actually creating a new directory somewhere else on your device under your user directory Orca workspaces, and then linking this back to the repositories, so that you have on your disk physically separated directories, actually, but with different git checks out. Let me just show this. So that's a project. This is the first work tree or the first workspace that I have created. By default, this is always set to the Git branch that is currently checked out when you import a repository. But you can also easily add another branch. For example, if I click on this plus icon, I can create a new work tree. And you can just give this a name, for example, feature test app, for example. Yeah. And I can start this with an agent or with a blank terminal, and then you can see a new work tree. So when you run a pwd, you can see where this directory actually lives. And then you basically, when you go to the Explorer, you have the same files as in your branch you used to create this. But if you start adding new files in here, for example, I can create a new file for example app. You can see this automatically opens a markdown editor where you can just type with markdown syntax readme, for example, apps. And then, of course, add code block formattings and yeah, all the great stuff. You can also view the source of the markdown file and yeah, start editing your code as well. It's honestly, in my opinion, not as good as VS Code or Z. So it's kind of a basic implementation. There are no real details about this, so you cannot add plugins or extensions yet. So this is kind of limited. But again, Orca is not really meant to be a full IDE. It is more like an ADE, so where you actually let the agent create these files and you basically use Orca mainly just to review them. So I'm gonna do this right now because I'm gonna open a new terminal window. So maybe I'm just gonna open this with PyAgent. And this automatically runs the agent with my default codex model. And I'm just gonna say, can you create a new example web project in the example app directory? So just to create some demo project, I can show you. Let's do some vibe coding. I think this is where Orca really has its strengths. So absolutely amazing. Let's say it's super simple demo project, maybe helping me to organize my home lab infrastructure, entities plus IP address management. I don't know what should be the stack. Create a Svelte Kit server front end app, build a Docker container, create Docker Compose for development testing on my local device. Yeah, I don't know. Should we specify anything else? Let's just start vibe coding and then iterate over this app. All right, so now you can see that Orca immediately recognizes the agent session. So it creates a new entry here with a PyAgent. You could now just run any other agent in here like Claude Code or Codex. You can also start orchestrating them and say, hey, the one agent should start developing the front end, the other one should start developing the back end whatsoever, and then merge this all together. And you can, of course, also develop these kind of features in separate work trees so that the agents don't block themselves or they try to edit the same file at the same time. Of course, if you're developing multiple features that are dependent on each other, then you should follow a different process because, again, if we just jump back to this work tree, there are no of these files in here and I have no agent sessions, so this is running completely isolated. But you can still run multiple agents, like another agent is currently developing an example app. Can you check the process and create a documentation in sample app docs, for example? Yeah, so then it might already be using the orchestration skill. Actually, I wanted to show you this later, but I don't know. It just makes a lot of fun to do this right now. So by reading the orchestration skill, remember you need to enable this in the application settings, then this agent can actually see what the other agent is doing, and it can also spawn sub-agents. And with this command, the Orca terminal is sending instructions to the other agent. So we probably have to wait a little until the first agent has completed this write process. There it already is. So here, this is the message telling the first agent, hey, I'm documenting this. Please briefly reply with the intended feature development scope and which implementation files are still planned. So that the first agent, which is developing the app, is telling the second one what it needs to document. And as you can see, this is currently working all together. No, it already received all the information, so it can create this file. And I can now just go on and start iterating on this. Or I could even create another work tree. Currently, there are no files in here that we could iterate on, but usually you would merge this into the Git repository, then check out in an isolated work tree and work on separate features there. So that's how I guess you usually do it as a developer. Honestly, I have no idea because I'm just vibe coding. But anyways, this is how I'm currently using this in my projects. And as you can see, this is absolutely incredible. It's already start to filling up these files. It's creating the Docker file, the compose stack, everything. Here's the data. The documentation is already getting created by the second agent. What is a bit annoying is this scrolling. So if the agent is currently working, it's for whatever reason, it starts scrolling up always. So it's sometimes a bit hard to see the current process, but anyways, it might be just based on the agent. Maybe it works better in Codex or Claude. I've honestly not tested this really. And yeah, of course, while this is running, you can always click on any file. You can inspect the file, change anything in here and see what the agent is currently doing. So here you can see it's already creating the architecture documentation, like the SvelteKit routes to the page, UI, search filterings, forms, loadings. So it's actually already creating a completely ready app for me, which is really incredible. I probably just need to tell it that it needs to run on a different port because another app is currently running there as well. Can you change the port of the demo app from 5173 to, I don't know, let's just use this here. Yeah, then it's not colliding with the other demo app that I'm currently working on my device. And yeah, so I think we need to figure out how to start this app. So this Docker Compose file should actually run the demo locally. So it should build the Docker image containing the application. The cool thing is that you can also add quick commands. You can see I've added this one here as a new agent prompt. So you can either just add a terminal command if you exactly know what to do or what to run, or you can choose an agent prompt, start the dev server. So this basically just runs another agent with that prompt, and this will figure out how exactly this is working in that project. So let this agent just run the development server here. All right, so the dev server has been started, and with a command click, you can open this. And this automatically opens a new browser tab in Orca. So this is also isolated in this specific work tree. So I can really use this to test and investigate your developed app, if it's a web-based application, of course. So here you can see this is what the agent has built. It's called Homebase, so that sounds pretty cool. Inventory is healthy, whatever that means. But yeah, your lab at a glance. Pretty nice, but yeah, we'll see. Total entries online now, networks. It actually added my real Proxmox node. So this is my real production server. The DNS resolving is actually not correct, but yeah, I can probably change that later. Container sandbox, maintenance status. Okay, that looks pretty cool. I can also add a new entry, for example, Proxmox prod 2. Yeah, and this has the IP address 5, if I'm correct, and the host name is prxprod2. Home.c, crave.de. The type is server. Yeah, okay. Status online, production. Yeah. So that's my new home lab management app that I've created in like 5 minutes or so. Don't worry, I'm not gonna deploy this to production on Friday, of course. Yeah, this is just a simple demo app. But here I can actually demonstrate another cool feature, because here with these controls, you can grab any page element. So you can easily just hover over this and copy the HTML code. Of course, you can also inspect the source view with the developer tools. But this is really the best feature, annotate page element. For example, I don't like this long introduction here. I can just grab this and I can ask a question to the AI agent, explain the classes or what is this object doing whatsoever. But you can also change it. For example, remove this as this just takes too much space, for example. Yeah. Replace with a simple introduction sentence. Yeah. Now it's adding this to an annotation list that I can send to an agent, but I can also just go on and do other improvements. I don't know what this app should actually do here, but maybe I want an icon here, for example. Yeah. So something like here. Can you implement an icon management with Lucid icons? Okay, so yeah, let's add this to the feature list. And yeah, So let's send this. Now I can send this to any agent that is currently running. Then you can see it's automatically pasting all the context from the graphed elements. So the URL, the browser tab, and what element it is, and also describe in the prompt what I want to do. And then the agent is already just starting its work, reading the files, making the necessary changes. All right, so next I'm just going to show you one more thing while the agent is running and doing the changes. Here, the Orca mobile. So this is where you can connect your mobile phone. Currently, it's paired with my iPhone. And then you can connect to your devices and you really see all the tabs. You also have the account usage and you can jump into any of the work trees and all of the sessions and then type in a command. You can read the terminal output and all of that stuff. So that is really cool. Honestly, I have to say sometimes it's a little buggy. So, because it needs to change the resolution and the layout of the tabs, and sometimes it's just stuck loading for whatever reason. I don't know if that's just for me or if there is some improvements in the new Orca version to this mobile companion. It sometimes works, sometimes does not work so great, but I guess you just have to try it out yourself. But yeah, as we can see here, the agent has completed the changes, so we can go to the browser tab. Oh, yeah, currently there's an error. That's not so nice, but we can tell, can you test and fix the issues? Or maybe we just need to restart the container. I'm currently not sure, but I probably will just try it out. Restart the dev server. So then we should see the changes. And if there are any issues, the agent should fix it. All right, so let's try again. Ah, yeah, there it is. So a restart helps, as most of the time. But here you can see, yeah, the title is gone. I now have proper icons. Just wondering how I can change them. By clicking on this, now I can open the icon switcher and I can change that. Oh, that looks pretty nice, yeah? Okay, so I'm just going to stop the agent right now because I like to deploy this application. First of all, I should go to the GitOps source control and merge this into the current branch. Because currently we're working in the feature test app branch. Let's say stage all changes, and then let's commit this. For example, app initially created, commit this to the branch, publish the branch, and then I'm going to create a merge request to merge this into the main feature branch and then delete the entire workspace because we have completed the work on this feature. So let's go to this menu here and let's run a pull command. So then you can see the files appear in the main branch on our disk and we can now just work on this as well. So yeah, maybe I want more features on this application. I can create more branches here, add documentation, for example, create this work tree and give PyAgent another task. For example, implement a markdown-based home lab implementation system. Orchestrate multiple sub-agents to run this in parallel with lower thinking mode to save tokens, for example. And now this agent task becomes some kind of coordinating task. So you can see that it adds multiple sub-agent as tasks here. It just did one mistake. It again started codecs and I don't want this, of course. So wait a second, I'm just going to stop them. So this is actually a bit annoying. I unfortunately have to tell it this when this orchestration with PyAgent and GPT-5.6 Soul. Probably I just need to update my prompt in PyAgent to add a rule or guardrail saying like whenever you do orchestration, please make sure to always run the orchestration with PyAgent and not Codex CLI because it's currently not configured the right way. But yeah, of course, you can also just tell it to run other types of agents, like, for example, run the front-end implementation with Claude because you know this is the best agent for doing this and that, or the back-end implementation, or maybe API requests might be a bit easier, so just run this with PyAgent and Minimax or something like this. By the way, what is also pretty cool, because Codex always asks you for permissions and so on, there is a setting in agent where you can set the agent permissions to YOLO, which basically means Orca launches the agents with all permissions and without manual checks, which might be annoying if you're running something like Claude or Codex CLI as sub-agents because they regularly ask you, hey, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do that? So that would be super annoying. So make sure this is then set if you're orchestrating these type of agents. Pi, by the way, is not doing this by default. That's the reason why I'm using it. But yeah, You might have other preferences than me, of course. So you can see the sub-agents already completed their tasks. They sent some kind of response back to the controlling agent that receives it. It verifies what the sub-agent had done, then analyzing it and spawn new sub-agents to fix the issues and all of that stuff. And that is really cool. Honestly, guys, I could just go on for another 1 or 2 hours because it makes so much fun. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this new tool, Orca, because I think this is absolutely amazing. And it even enables us less coding skilled guys to actually start creating some cool projects. I probably could make something like a vibe coding series or so. I think it would be really cool. So please tell me in the comments if you would like to watch something like this. And maybe this inspired you to try out Orca, use it for your own workflows, even if it's not software development. But if this is like operations, you can run separate projects on remote servers, asking agents, hey, can you check the compose deployments? Can you check the health status of my servers? You can even run automations with that and so on. I think this is a really cool project that we need to explore more in the future. So yeah, that's it about Orca. I hope you enjoyed it. A big thanks goes out to all of my subscribers and members of my community. You guys are amazing. You make all these free tutorials possible. And of course, thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.